Hey guys, thanks for watching. Today we're going to be talking about the Tower of Babel, right? Now that is a super hard to digest part of the Bible, right? If you've not just heard the story, but if you've read it before, you know that there's some stuff that goes on there that's like, God, why would you go out of your way to change all their languages? I mean, how could you possibly be thinking that they might get to heaven by building this tower? I mean, we have skyscrapers and they're not touching heaven or, you know, changing anything. So what were you so concerned about, right? And so God says, if anyone lacks wisdom, to ask. And so I took him up on this offer, and I was like, okay, every morning I would go in and I would lay it at his feet and say, Lord, I really want to understand this part of the Bible. You say your word is 100% true, and I want to stand on that. So please show me your heart. Show me what you were thinking during this time to help me understand your character more. He didn't answer me right away. However, he was about to teach me through a parenting situation I have. And so this was a couple years ago, by the way, and it's something that I journaled. And as I was reading through my journals the other day, I was like, I really want to do a video on this. Okay, so a couple years back, you know, I'm laying this at God's feet and I'm asking him, please give me wisdom. And so, you know, I don't know if you guys know, some do, some don't, but we adopted a child. My daughter, she's now 4.5, but at the we had her since she was 5 weeks old, but at the time she was 2.5, and she was still in a crib, and we still had baby gates up, which is very foreign to me. With my older two, with my other son that we had fostered, and so the reason was she just didn't have a whole lot of self-control or even discipline, self-discipline, or even wasn't a great listener, right? And so those types of things, like keeping her in a crib when she slept or having baby gates up, helped enforce my limits, helped enforce my rules, because she wasn't a great listener and she always did whatever she wanted to do. And so, you know, for example, staying in her bed. When I laid her down, I knew that she was going to be in her bed. Or, you know, I knew she wasn't in certain areas of the house, getting into things that I didn't want her to get into. And so those help enforce those limits. And so one day, you know, I realized that that was all I was doing. That was just keep changing up the situation until she could grow a little more and learn some self-discipline, learn some self-control, and learn to listen to us a little more. And I thought, you know, when she starts to listen, then I'll take those baby gates down. Well, it just so happened that instead of that day coming, the day actually came where she learned how to open up the baby gates and how to climb out of her crib. And so I sat down and I thought within myself, I have to change it up somehow. She's not ready yet. I can't trust her to keep, I still at that stage where I have to keep her safe from herself. She's too stubborn, she's too rebellious, she's too defiant, and she doesn't know any better. So I need to think of some way to, you know, change this up, since she's already learned how to open the baby gates. She knows how to climb out her bed, but it just isn't time yet. And God whispered down and he said, is that any different than what I did at the Tower of Babel? And I thought, whoa. So in other words, God doesn't control us, okay? He has an inheritance waiting for us. He has big things waiting for us, but man was in his infancy and could not be trusted. And yet their strengths were rebellion, their strengths were defiance. And so that's what God meant by where the Bible says he knew that they could do anything if they put their mind to it. But what they were lacking was morals. What they were lacking was listening to God, who was in charge of them. And until those things could match up, you know, and God could trust them with more responsibilities, he has to change it up. He has to change it up just like we do as parents, right? We don't control our kids, but we put them into a controlled environment, right? So again, with my little one, when she was really tiny, you know, we knew the type of child she was. And so my mom, she lives with us, and sometimes she would be like, did you want me to watch her while you're, you know, doing your hair or whatever it was? And I said, no, I had set up barriers for her, and I knew what environment she was in, and I calculated the risk. She might get into that, but that's not going to harm her. She might get into that, but she's going to learn her boundaries. She's going to learn, you know, what hurts and what doesn't. And so I've calculated all those risks before I went and did my hair, knowing that she was in a controlled environment. And, you know, as they grow and as we grow, that environment gets a little bit bigger, right? The boundaries increase, we can spread them out a little bit, right? And so it's the same thing God has done. It's the same thing he did at the Tower of Babel. They were not ready, and he was still in the business of protecting them from themselves. They were too rebellious, they were too stubborn, they were too defiant, and they were headstrong and determined. And it wasn't that God was afraid that they were going to make it to heaven with this tower, because like I said, we have skyscrapers bigger probably than what they were trying to build in that time frame. It had nothing to do with it. It had to do with God changing up the environment and saying, these people are so good in the flesh, but they are not schooled in the things of the Spirit. They are not disciplined. They have not bore the fruits that I've sent them here to bear. And until they do, I have to keep changing up the environment to protect them from themselves until the day that they're mature enough and responsible enough to receive the inheritance that I have for them. Okay, so I hope that blesses you the way that it has blessed me, and really defined and underlined God's character, which does match up with the rest of what I know about him. Okay, so God bless you. I will see you in the next video.